Hey, how you doing? Uh, I don't do too many long form videos, so I'm gonna go ahead and do one today. I know y'all saw the latest video regarding the raising canes. If I'm talking low, therefore I'm at the library. Um, anyway, of course y'all saw the video on raising cane. I've applied over there a couple days ago. I come by there walking by and I asked some employees, I said, hey, you guys are hiring, something part-time I can use so I can go to Second City. And lady told me, she said, yeah, they hiring. Young lady said, yeah, they hiring. I fill out an application. So I filled out an application and I came to the store a couple of times. And I asked for the hiring manager. Oh, he's not in right now, come tomorrow. He's not in right now, come tomorrow. That happened a couple of days in a row. So I called up there. I was able to talk to him. This was yesterday. I was able to talk to him yesterday. He said, yeah, I haven't reviewed applications. Oh, he said, yeah, I haven't reviewed applications yet, but I will today. And I will contact the people who's been selected. I'm thinking like, you know, okay, I should be one of them because I don't have any felonies. I've graduated from high school. Went to Illinois Media School. I have manager experience, over 20 years of customer service experience. Okay, no problem. So I said, okay, I'm about tired of this unemployment issue here in Chicago, which they not giving people a chance to be employed here. It's very hard to find employment here in Chicago. It don't make any kind of sense. So I got out and I said, you know what? I'm going out for a job. I'm not about to be out here begging nobody for nothing. I'm going out here for a job. I went to all kind of places. A lot of dead end joints, a lot of joints that a lot of people won't get caught dead in. Oh, we not hiring Portillo's, we not hiring pork bellies, we're not hiring noodles company, we not hiring Panera bread, we not hiring. Anyway, so I right around the Raising Cane's, I went down the street, I said, you know what? I'm just gonna go ahead and come talk to the guy. Put a face to this name. So I was able to talk to the hiring manager and could not remember his name for nothing in this world. So I come up there, I said, the hiring manager here? So one of the cashiers went up and got the hiring manager. And the hiring manager came to the window. I was able to introduce myself and let them know, hey, I got over 20-some years in customer service experience. As far as cleaning, I have years in housekeeping. I used to work at hospitals downtown in Indianapolis for nearly 10 years. And, said, hey, man, I'm willing to go tooth and nail for you. And he smiled at me, said, okay, so you need a job. I said, yeah, man. He said, all right. Look, I'm kind of busy right now, and tomorrow's going to be my last day of vacation. But come back at 8:30 and ask for Pedro. He said, come back at 8:30 for an interview. I said, all right, man, well, remember this face, because I'll be right back here at 8:30. He said, well, I won't be here, but ask for Pedro. I get over there. I get there by 8:15. All right? And I go to the window, come to the cashier. I said, hey, is Pedro here? She said, okay, look, young lady. She asked for Pedro. Pedro comes about 30 seconds to a minute later. I said, hey, Pedro, I'm Eddie Parker. I'm here for, I'm Eddie Parker. I'm pretty sure that the hiring manager told me about you. He looks at me like he didn't know what I was talking about. Like, who am I? What am I doing here? He came to the window. How can I help you? And then I was like, yeah, my name is Eddie Parker. The hiring manager didn't tell you I was coming? And he's over there blinking real hard. And to me, when I see somebody that blinks like that, something real off. So I knew it was something was real off when I first encountered with him. And I told him who I was once again. And he said, "Oh, are you here for an interview?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Okay, well, wait out there for me for a minute." I waited out there for him. Like I said, around 8:15, sat out there, waited for him. Now, usually, I've been a store manager, I conducted interviews, things like that. When I'm about to interview somebody and I got somebody waiting for the interview, I usually offer them a drink or whatever. Hey, can I offer you something, or, at least be some courteous in somewhat, right? Sit out there, just sitting. And I would say around 8:30, 8:35, one of his employees came out. I said, "So what's Pedro doing?" "Oh, he's doing everything." Look, young lady, he's doing everything. I said, "Well, I have an interview with him at 8:30. I said, "Do you know what time it is?" I didn't know the time at that time because I had my phone charging. So I had my phone off and it was charging. She said, "Oh," I said, "I have an interview with him at 8:30. He looked at me and she looked at me and she said, "Oh." "So what time do you have?" She said, 8:38. Okay, things happen. But then again, I'm thinking in the back of my head, like, dang, at least he could have been like, "Hey, man, look, I'm going to be a minute. I'm kind of busy right now." Yada, yada, yada. He could have shown some kind of courtesy, some kind of respect. Like, "Hey, just give me a minute." You know what I mean? When I first approached the store, when I first approached the store, it was very busy around 8 o'clock. So the first thing I'm thinking about, this hiring manager that told me to come up here at 8 o'clock, I'm already thinking he already played me. He told me to come at a later time, so when they're real busy, where they won't have time to interview me. So therefore, they can tell me, "Oh, come back tomorrow." And they can continue that pattern. Now, Pedro didn't even bother to say, "Hey, man, I'm busy. Can you come back tomorrow?" Didn't even bother to do that. So 8:45 come around. I come to the window and I asked the same young lady who got me Pedro earlier. I said, "Hey, tell Pedro I'm still out here." It's 8:45. I don't care, put it like this. Even though you're the person that's being interviewed, you still have to scout the employer. Because if they're not on time to doing an interview with you, how can they trip on you not being on time for work? If the interview is at 8:30 and the employer or the interviewer starts the interview at 8:40, 8:45, how is that a good example of leadership? In my eyes, I've never done anything like that. And even I did do something like that, I always was courteous to the person who took their time to come over here, to try to support the business that I'm running. Anyway, so she says around 8:45, I asked, "Where's Pedro at?" She looks irritated. Now, first of all, I only asked you twice, young lady, about Pedro. The first time I was able to introduce him. We was able to introduce each other. The second time was, me, 8:45, me waiting on Pedro. Anyways, I've got somebody calling me. That's why I'm kind of distracted. So Pedro tell him I'll be there in a minute. Okay, I sit out there. And the same young lady who I've asked what's Pedro doing, because she was on her break. And the same young lady I asked, what time it was or something like that. I sat up there for like 3-4 minutes. Like I said, it's 8:45, so I stayed there about 5 more minutes. And I walked up to her and I said, "Your manager is disrespectful." And I walked out of there. Soon as I walked out of there, Pedro wanted to come walk right behind me with a clipboard and act like he wanted to do the damn interview. I turned around and I looked at him. I said, "I'm good, man. I'm good." And that's when I started my short video. Okay? And which I shared on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and of course some people in comments like, "Oh, you need them. They don't need you." Look, I don't put up with anything for a paycheck. You understand me? I have walked out with several jobs that disrespected me. Not that they hurt my feelings, they just flat out disrespected my time, didn't appreciate my service, or anything of that nature. Last time I let a job disrespect me and I decided to stay at that job, I took someone's advice and said, "Oh, well, go ahead and take whatever they give you as long as you got a job." And I ended up being depressed. I ended up being on drugs. I ended up being on alcoholic because of this job. And I'm talking about Eskenazi Hospital in Indianapolis. Because you're not going to call me a racial impotent, whatever, how they say it, and expect me to keep working for y'all. Y'all ain't even paying me like that. Y'all was only paying me $11 an hour at that time. This was 10 years ago, back in 2015, but still. And I'm cleaning up blood, shit, and piss in your goddamn surgery rooms, and y'all gonna talk to me like that? Oh, no. And during the time when I was working there, some people were very nasty, towards me. I mean, you had nurses that work up there that act like they was, talk to folks, condescending, in a very condescending manner. Bitch, you wipe ass for a living, okay? You handle shit for a living and you walk around thinking you the shit. No, that's not happening. So anyway, that's when the very next year I went to here in Chicago and got into the media industry and got into doing background acting. And, I was here all the way to, back and forth until COVID. And when COVID hit, I had to go back to Indianapolis and go back to the 9-to-5s. Things were starting to pick up at that time until COVID hit. And then that's when I had to go back to the 9-to-5s. My point is, the reason why I started doing the media industry is because I didn't want to continue to work at jobs that I hated. I figured, hell, I got a gift. I know how to do voiceovers. I know how to do camera work. I know how to do audio. I know how to do radio. You know what I mean? Why would I? And this is the first time I went to school in my early 30s. I went to school and it was hands-on. I'm not the type of guy that can sit in the classroom and hear the teacher talk all daggone day. I went to school several times and I sat in the classroom and hear the teacher where I'm over. You know what I mean? Hope I'm not talking too loud, but maybe I am. I'm sorry. But yeah. So when I graduated from Illinois Media School, I was one of the top students in my class, but pretty much one of the top 3 hardest working students. You know what I mean? And I tried to come over to radio stations, things of that nature, and had some gigs here and there. But once COVID hit, man, that was it. I had to go back to Indiana, where all the depression and anxiety and the suicidal thoughts began. So I've been back in Indiana for 2020 to 2025, and I just left Indiana and back to the same old hardship. You know what I mean? I'm still, you can't hold the king down, man. If I've watched wrestling, for all my wrestling fans, Jey Uso just lost his belt to Gunther, and he tapped out during submission. But the match they had before, Gunther ended up tapping out. But what made Stone Cold very hot, it wasn't just Austin 316 or him just using profanity or explicitives or whatever. It was that match that him and Bret Hart had in WrestleMania 13, where Bret Hart beat Stone Cold to a bloody pulp. And when Bret Hart put Stone Cold in the sharpshooter, Stone Cold didn't tap out. Stone Cold passed out. And then ever since, he was regarded by fans as the toughest son of a bitch. Here it is, he was a heel, a bad guy. But people loved him because of his tenacity, because he was persistent, he was resilient, and he didn't take no shit. I think we'd rather be Stone Cold. I think I'd rather be Stone Cold. No matter what I'm going through right now, I can't afford to quit because I might be a vessel to somebody who's going through hardship right now. And with my faith in God, I can't quit. Even if I want to, I cannot quit for the life of me. I be wanting to, but I can't. Because I'm not the only one that's going through what I'm going through. Somebody else is going through it. There's millions of people that's going through it. It's not a black or white thing. You know what I mean? It's, things happen. But I think as long as you keep your faith and you put your faith into works, things will eventually happen. I'm not giving nobody a sob story, anything of that nature. Hopefully, I'm giving you hope because you can't quit, man. You just can't quit. I worked at this janky-ass job, Sunshine Results in Indianapolis. And where I would call you and I'd be like, hi, my name is Eddie. I'm calling from Sunshine. I'm calling from Easy Travel Trips. Would you like to go to Las Vegas? Would you like to go to Fort Lauderdale, Florida? I was the spam call guy. I didn't want to be the spam. I ended up being somebody that I hated. So I had to get the hell out of that job. And when I got out of that job, I asked for my paycheck. And the clown did not want to give me my paycheck. And he still haven't paid me to this day. So I'm going to make a short video on that clown also. I had to contact the United States Department of Labor. Randy Young is the CEO of that company. Yeah. But yeah, man. It's a tough road. But this is one of the reasons why I got into the media industry, because I did not want to work for no more Randy Youngs, no more Mike Kings from Eskenazi Hospital. I didn't want to keep asking Pedros for a job. You know what I mean? So, only thing I can keep on doing is, like my granddaddy used to say, and like a classic song from D-Train, is keep on keeping on. That's it, man. And I hope you do the same. And I hope this inspires you. You know what I mean? And just keep God first. This Snaptown Eddie, over and out.